Good evening, my dear students. Once again, I am Ma'am Kathy Koseb, and tonight I will be sharing to you another video lesson about quadratic equations or solving quadratic equations by factoring. So please continue watching this video and comment below any part of the discussions that needs clarification. Thank you very much. Okay, so here we go. Solving quadratic equations by factoring. Now, when you say factoring, it comes from the word factors, which means numbers to be multiplied. So in other words, we need to find the factors of the quadratic equations in order for us to solve for the values of x or the solutions. Now, there are actually 6 types of factoring. We have the greatest common factor, factoring by grouping, factor by finding the difference in two squares, factoring by the sum or difference in two cubes, factoring by trinomials, and factoring by general trinomials. But in this particular discussion, we are going to focus only on factoring by finding its greatest common factor, finding its difference in two squares, and the trinomials. The remaining types of factoring will be discussed on our next video. To solve quadratic equations by factoring, we need to follow some simple steps. Number 1, transform the quadratic equation into standard form if necessary. Number 2, factor the quadratic expression. Number 3, apply the zero product property. Number 4, solve each resulting equation to get the value of the variable. Number 5, check the values obtained by substituting each in the original equation. Okay, so this is our example number 1. Find the solutions of x squared plus 7x equals negative 6 by factoring. Now, on my right side is the guide of the steps to follow on how to solve quadratic equations by factoring. So step number 1 says that we must transform the quadratic equation into standard form. And remember that the standard form of the quadratic equation is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So this is the standard form. And obviously, our given x squared plus 7x equals negative 6 is not yet in the standard form. Now, in order for us to do this, we simply need to make negative 6 equals 0. So, negative 6 becomes 0 if we add positive 6. So this becomes x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals negative 6 plus 6. So I added 6 on both sides of the equation by following the rule of the addition property of equality. And simplifying this, it becomes x squared plus 7x plus 6 is equal to 0. Now, step number 2. Factor the quadratic expression. Now, this particular quadratic expression is a trinomial because it has 3 terms. So, to factor out x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals 0, we need to focus on the last term of the trinomial, which is 6. So write all the possible factors of 6. So we have 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Now, after writing all the possible factors, find the possible combination that when added is equal to the middle term 7. Again, among these factors of 6, find out which of these would be equal to the middle term 7. So find which factors that when added is equal to 7, which is the middle term. And obviously, when you add 1 and 6, it's equal to 7. So therefore, we use 1 and 6. So in factoring this out, this would be the square root of x squared is x, and we use the factors 1 and 6. So these are now the factors of the given equation. Step number 3. Apply the zero product property. So we have to equate each of this factor into 0. So you have x plus 1 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0. Step number 4, solve each resulting equation to get the value of the variable. And the variable we use is x. So we need to continue solving. So this is number 4. So x plus 1 equals 0. Our first value of x is equal to negative 1. And on this side, we have x is equal to negative 6. Now, to find out if these values are correct, we need to do the checking. So let's check if these answers or these values are correct. So using the original equation, x squared plus 7x is equal to negative 6 if x is equal to negative 1. So what we need to do is simply substitute the first value of x, which is negative 1. So you have negative 1 squared plus 7 times negative 1 equals negative 6. So negative 1 squared is equal to positive 1. Positive 7 times negative 1 is negative 7 equals negative 6. 1 minus 7 is equal to negative 6, and it is also equal to negative 6. So as what you can see, the numbers on the left and right side of this equation are the same. So therefore, the value of x equals negative 1 is correct because it satisfies the given equation. Now let's continue with the second value of x, which is negative 6. So again, from the given, x squared plus 7x equals negative 6, let's find out if the value of x, negative 6, will satisfy this equation. So let's substitute the value of x, which is negative 6. So that is negative 6 squared plus 7 times negative 6 equals negative 6. So when you square negative 6, that is 36. 7 times negative 6 is negative 42 equals negative 6. So 36 minus 42 is equal to negative 6, and it is actually equal to the negative 6. So therefore, it is also correct. Now, both values of x satisfy the given equation. Thus, the equation x squared plus 7x equals negative 6 is true when x is equal to negative 1 and x is equal to negative 6. Now, the first example we solved is factoring by trinomials. Now, in this second example, this is an example of factoring by the difference of two squares. Factor 4x squared minus 9 equals 0 and solve for x. As I've said, this is an example of the difference of two squares. How can you identify if the given is an example of a difference of two squares? Now, obviously, the operation in between should be a subtraction. And the terms should be perfect square numbers. Now, it is necessary to tell and identify the kind or the type of factoring you can use, because from that idea, it would be easy for you also to give the factors. Because when we factor the difference of two squares, we just simply follow the pattern of x squared minus y squared equals x plus y, x minus y. So in other words, if this is an example of a difference of two squares, we can simply factor it out using this pattern. So let's solve this given equation using the steps given. Now, step number 1, transform the quadratic equation into standard form. Now, it is already in standard form. So we may proceed to example or step number 2. Factor the quadratic expression. So, in factoring 4x squared minus 9 equals 0, we can simply apply this form. So, 4x squared minus 9 equals 0. The factors of this would be the quantities of the square root of 4x squared is equal to 2x, and the square root of 9 is 3. So you have plus and minus. So we just simply follow this pattern. Now, how would you know if these factors are correct? So you can simply follow or solve them using the FOIL method. Now, step number 3. Apply the zero product property. So we need to apply the zero product property by equating each of these factors into 0. So you have 2x plus 3 equals 0. And the other one, 2x minus 3 equals 0. Step number 4. Solve each equation to get the value of the variable. So simplifying 2x plus 3 equals 0, we simply have to add negative 3 on both sides of the equation. So this becomes 2x plus 3 minus 3 equals 0 minus 3. So this is 2x equals negative 3. Divide it by 2. So your first value of x is equal to negative 3 halves. Solving the other factor, we have 2x minus 3 plus 3 is equal to 0 plus 3. So this can be cancelled, and you have 2x is equal to 3. So divided by 2, cancel 2. The value of your x now is positive 3 halves. So these are the values of our x. Now let's proceed to the last part, or the last step, which is to check if the values of x are correct. So let's do the checking. From the given, 4x squared minus 9 equals 0 if x is equal to negative 3 halves. So substitute the value of x to this equation. You have 4 times negative 3 halves square minus 9 equals 0. So 4, when you square negative 3 halves, that becomes 9 over 4. Minus 9 equals 0. So simplify, we can cancel out 4, and this would be 9 minus 9 equals 0. And 9 minus 9 is also equal to 0. So in other words, the values of the first value of x, which is negative 3 halves, satisfies the equation of 4x squared minus 9 equals 0. Thus, it is correct. Let's proceed to the next value of our x, which is positive 3 halves. So from the equation, 4x squared minus 9 equals 0 when x is equal to positive 3 halves. Substitute the value of x, which is 3 halves. We have 4 times 3 halves square minus 9 equals 0. So 4 times the square of 3 halves is 9 over 4. Minus 9 equals 0. So you can cancel out 4, and you have 9 minus 9 is 0, and 0 is equal to 0. So again, the second value of x, which is 3 halves, satisfies the given equation. Thus, the equation 4x squared minus 9 equals 0 is true if x is equal to negative 3 halves and positive 3 halves. Example number 3. Solve 4y squared plus 36 equals negative 24y. So in this particular example, we can apply factoring by the general trinomials. So let's consider again the steps in solving the quadratic equation. Step number 1, transform the quadratic equation into standard form. So this becomes 4y squared plus 36 equals negative 24y. So we need to change this into the standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now the variable y that is used here in the given equation does not affect the variable x that is in the standard form. So when we change this into standard form, we simply transpose negative 24y to the left side of the equation. So this becomes 4y squared plus 24y plus 36 equals 0. Step number 2, factor the quadratic expression. Now this 4y squared plus 24y plus 36 equals 0 is an example of a PST, or a perfect square trinomial. Now, what is a perfect square trinomial? And how are we able to identify if the trinomial is a perfect square trinomial? Now, these are the following steps to test if the given is a PST. Number 1, the first and the last terms are perfect squares. So from 4y squared plus 24y plus 36 equals 0, the first term, 4y squared, is a perfect square, and the last term, 36, is also a perfect square. So in other words, it satisfies the condition number 1. Condition number 2, the product of the square, the product of the square roots of the first and last terms is half its middle term. So when you take the square root of 4y squared, that is 2y, and taking the square root or extracting the square root of 36 is equal to 6. So when you multiply the two, that is 12y. And 12y is half the middle term, 24y. So it satisfies condition number 2. So since we were able to prove that this is a PST, so it's in the form, the quantity of x plus minus y times the quantity of x plus and minus y, or x plus minus y squared. So this may look difficult, but when you factor this out, since it is a PST, it will look like this. So the factors of 4y squared plus 24y plus 36 equals 0 would be the square root of 4y squared is 2y, and the square root of 36 is 6. So these are the factors of the perfect square given. Now, as what you can see, the two factors are the same. So you may take one to solve and equate to get the value of y. So step number 4, you have 2y plus 6 equals 0. So 2y plus 6 minus 6 equals 0 minus 6. So cancel 6 and negative 6, that becomes 2y equals negative 6. Divided by 2, your final answer y is negative 3. Now, as always, we need to do the checking to find out if the value of our y is correct. So from the equation, 4y squared plus 24y plus 36 equals 0. You may use this, or from the original given, 4y squared plus 36 equals negative 24y. So let's use the value of y, which is equal to negative 3. So substitute the value of y, which is negative 3. This becomes 4 times negative 3 squared plus 36 equals negative 24 times negative 3. So let's simplify. 4 times the square root, or the square of negative 3 rather, this is 9, plus 36 equals the negative times negative 3 is equal to positive 72, or positive 72. And 4 times 9 is 36, plus 36 equals 72. When you add 36 plus 36, this is 72, and it is also 72. So in short, the value of our y, which is negative 3, satisfies the given equation. Thus, the equation 4y squared plus 36 equals negative 24y is true when your y is equal to negative 3.